Last year, Salomon introduced a new shoe promising all-day comfort without weighing you down. But how does this shoe actually perform in the real-world conditions we experience as trail runners? Did they actually pack enough grip into these shoes as they claim? How do these trail runners stack up now that a second iteration is on the horizon? This is the Salomon Ultra Glide after 100 miles. Hey crew, I'm gonna cover some highlights of my experiences in these shoes, the Salomon Ultra Glides, after over 100 miles in them across a variety of the terrain here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a few specific weaknesses that I've discovered with these shoes that I will bring up, and make sure you stay to the end of the video where I'll cover what type of situation this shoe is best suited for. I'll contrast the Ultra Glides against another of last year's introductions, the Pulsar Trail Pros, as well as the second iteration of the Ultra Glides that have just released. But first, a little bit about myself. I'm an ultra runner and trail run leader for the Vancouver Running Company. As a disclaimer, these shoes were not given to me for the purposes of review. However, I do get a discount as a run leader. No one will have a chance to review my video before it is published, and all opinions are my own. Let's get on with it. My initial impressions of this shoe were quite good. I actually got to test these during a Salomon demo day out on the trails. And the two things that really stood out to me that morning were the stability and the protection. They inspired confidence on those technical trails that morning, contrasted to the Pulsar Trail Pros, which I also got to try, which felt a little too minimal, and they just did not offer that same feeling of stability. List price on these is $150. However, with the introduction of the second version of these shoes, they can now be found for about $105, with the new version selling for $150. My training with these shoes has been quite varied, with everything from shorter 10K mixed road and trail runs to longer 3-hour plus runs on muddy, rooted, technical single track terrain. Lately, I've spent a lot of time in wet and rainy conditions, which has highlighted some of the main shortcomings of this shoe. Typically, the traction on most trail surfaces has been spectacular, except in wet conditions. I find the mesh upper on top of the toe box to allow water to enter the shoe very easily. I've been surprised several times on the trails to find the toe box immediately getting soaked, although this likely comes as a trade-off for breathability on those hotter and drier days. The second issue is prevalent on slick, muddy terrain. The outsole is Salomon's trademarked Conti grip, which does perform in nearly all conditions. However, in mud, I find these shoes experience both forward and lateral slippage, depending on the momentum of the foot when it hits the ground. This results in a few unsettling experiences with the shoe after making contact with the earth. Now, something like a soft ground variant of this shoe would be perfect for these specific conditions, with its deeper lugs and optimized tread pattern. Unfortunately, that's not something that is currently offered. The marketing claims about running all day seem to ring true, at least on my longer runs. Not only do I feel confident I could run 8+ hours in these, I have no problem running in them on back-to-back days. They really check all the boxes for anyone training for a longer ultra distance race. Shifting to look at durability, I've noticed the lugs are starting to wear down in the impact areas of my foot. I suspect there's another 100 to 200 miles left in the tread before they become too worn off to be effective on the trails. Other than that, I haven't seen any other signs of early wear or distress on the material. I'll leave a comment down below with how many miles I ultimately get out of these shoes, as well as any points of failure when that time comes. If you're finding this video helpful, consider giving it a like as it really helps the channel grow, and subscribe for more trail content. Contrasting this shoe with the new Ultra Glide 2, however, I do have some concerns. In the newer version, they have opted for both a 3.5mm drop versus the 4mm drop in these, as well as incorporating the Energy Blade TPU plate found in the Pulsar Trail Pro. The big difference between those two original shoes was the absence of the TPU plate in the first edition of the Ultra Glides. So my main concern would be a loss of the stability and sure-footedness that these original models offered. So what are my final thoughts on the Salomon Ultra Glides? Well, I'm very impressed with these shoes. I would recommend them to anyone training for a longer distance, ultra length race. In more technical terrain, unless you spent a majority of your time on excessively muddy or snowy trails, these shoes will perform wonderfully for you. The design feels to be targeted more towards summer-like conditions, such as those that are found at Western states in California, where issues of slick mud, wet toe boxes are less of a concern. That's all for the Ultra Glides. Thanks for watching.